Right, okay, so keeping moving. This is a Dhammachakra. Dhamma means law and chakra means wheel, so it's a wheel of law. It's a chariot wheel, so it's a sort of an image of an ancient Indian chariot, which was a common thing and a common image. Kings rode chariots, so it's sort of a royal image, a special image. It's from the Dhammachakra period, from the 7th to the 9th century in Thailand. It's one of the earliest Buddhist symbols, and it's aniconic, which all the early Buddhist symbols were aniconic, which means they weren't images of the Buddha's body. They were a wheel, a footprint, an empty throne, which I read about, which I haven't actually seen any empty thrones, but apparently an empty throne is another early Buddhist image. This was found in Nakhon Pathom, which is a city about an hour west of here, an ancient Thai city. And that's where the majority of all the Dhammachakras in Thailand were found. Some in a few different places, but a bunch of them were found in Nakhon Pathom. If you've been to Nakhon Pathom, you know that there's a huge chedi in the middle of the city, a huge stupa. It's the tallest stupa in the world, and it shows you that Nakhon Pathom is even worldwide, is a very important city for Buddhism. The Dhammachakra period, this was the central city of that, I wouldn't say kingdom, but that period, that culture. And Nakhon Pathom, the name actually comes from the Pali for first city. And the reason it's called Nakhon Pathom first city is because it's the first city of Buddhism in Thailand. As early as the 3rd century BC, King Ashoka, like you have Asok Road in Bangkok, Asok is named after King Ashoka. Just the way Lumpini Park is named after Lumpini, the birthplace of the Buddha. So Ashoka sent missionaries. When he converted to Buddhism, he sent missionaries as far as he could, east, also north, also south. And it's generally thought that an Ashokan missionary came at least as far as Burma, close to Thailand. The Buddhist history says he sent them to Suvarnabhumi. And so there's some sort of, it's not clear exactly where Suvarnabhumi was, but a lot of scholars seem to think that the capital of Suvarnabhumi was actually Nakhon Pathom. But by the 6th century, the Dhammachakra period, Buddhism was well established there. I've referenced an event, which is the introduction of Buddhism to Thailand, and a place, which is Nakhon Pathom. And if you look at this wheel, it also represents an event and a place. So the event is Buddha deciding to teach and giving his first sermon at Sarnath. The place is Sarnath. So what this image really shows is not so much the Buddha's body and the Buddha of the person of the Buddha, but it shows an actual event that is sort of the central event of Buddhism, and it references the place in the deer, and I'll show you why the deer represents that specific place. So the event is the Buddha who was convinced by Brahma, as the myths go, to teach. After his enlightenment, he spent a bunch of time just hanging out in a very blissful state, and it wasn't clear whether he would actually teach his insight to humanity or not, because it's a sort of a tall order. But Brahma came down and said, you should do it because some people will understand you. So he gathered the 5 ascetic yogis that he used to practice with, that he had kind of gone beyond their practice, and he thought back and said, well, they're pretty close. So he gave his first sermon to these 5 yogis who became the first Buddhist monks. At least one of them became the official first Buddhist monk and started the Sangha. When he heard this sermon, the first sermon, he instantly became enlightened, apparently. It's called the Dhammachakra Sutta, and in that sutta, which this represents, it's really, when you see a wheel, you really think back to the turning of the wheel, which is the meaning of the title of this sutta. And the turning of the wheel means that the Buddha set this wheel in motion. The teachings move, and the dynamic teachings sort of have in the image a turning wheel image. So In that sermon, he talks about the middle way. He found a middle way between hardcore yogi practices and hanging out in mansions and eating fruit off the vine and all that. He found a way in the middle. He said that it's called the Eightfold Path, and he described 8 aspects of sort of this middle way, and he talked about the 4 Noble Truths. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Now for the place. Okay, the place where he gave the sermon is Sarnath in India. It's near Benares, which used to be called Varanasi, where the Ganges and the Ghats are. It's very close to there. And it's also close to Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha sat under the tree and became enlightened. It's a really nice place. I've been there. It's really well kept. It has a great museum. And it's the stupa and the old monasteries that were set up there, all very beautiful, and there's also Dhammachakras there, original, very old Dhammachakras. Sarnath, the name Sarnath comes from the Pali for king of deer. And the reason that Sarnath is called the king of deers is an old Jataka tale. Before the Buddha was enlightened, he had many, many lifetimes, right? And all these stories that children learn in Buddhist classes to sort of to learn morals and lessons are called Jataka tales. And there's a Jataka tale where the Buddha was the leader of a deer pack in this area. And in the area, a king loved hunting deers, and so he was decimating the deer population. And Buddha, the deer leader, went to this king and said, well, let's make a deal. This is not okay for you to be killing all these deers. We'll sacrifice, one of us will sacrifice themselves. We'll give you 1 deer a month or something like that. And so you stop hunting us to extinction. And the king said, okay. And when it came to turn for a pregnant female doe to sacrifice herself, she talked to the deer who is the bodhisattva, the Buddha to be. And she said, well, it's my turn, I'll willingly go, but my baby, it's not quite fair for my baby, is it? My baby doesn't have a choice in this, my fetus. So the Buddha said, you're right, I'm the king of the deer, but I will go in your place. And the king, seeing the Buddha sacrificing himself, and that's generally what he does in Jataka tales, that he sacrifices his life for other people, other animals. The king, witnessing this, is so moved. And he says, I'm a human with an animal heart, but you're an animal with a human heart. So from now on, this will be a deer sanctuary. I'll stop hunting deer, and all deers, you can all hang out in this deer park. So that's, Sarnath is the deer park. And that's why the Buddha went there, because yogis and holy men in India love to hang out in places like, they like hanging out in like national parks. You know, like it's a peaceful place. It's not in the city, and they're forest monks. So it's a good forest to be in. Now I just have a few. Am I running very long? I just have two more things. Okay. Okay, 2 more things. Okay, the object itself. The spokes of the wheel, if you look at Dhammachakras, there's lots of different numbers of spokes. Nowadays, modern Dhammachakras, they usually, if you see one in Japan, like there's a little Dhammachakra here and it has 8. At a certain point, Dhammachakras became, the spokes of Dhammachakras became symbolic of the Eightfold Path, the 12 links of codependent origination, things like this. So you see 8 and 12. But in the past, you see Dhammachakras with lots of spokes, just a few spokes. And from what I read, spokes are not symbolic of some number of teachings or this or that. It has more to do with actually showing sculpturally. They want the wheel to look like it's actually turning. That's kind of an artistic strategy. So you can imagine, like, if you look at a wheel with spokes turning, it looks like there's a lot. So it could be 4 or 5, but actually if it's turning, you see a lot. And also, how to show that the wheel is turning is that these floral designs in the side are being pressed down as if they're attached to the the rim of the wheel, and the wheel is turning, so the leaves are pressed down in the wind. So it's almost, there's a very artistic thing going on where it's trying to show you that there's movement happening in the wheel. Okay, one more thing. Most wheels are filled in, but this one has space, so that's why this one is pretty cool. And when you see a Dhammachakra, you can imagine it on a pillar, because King Ashoka, that Indian king who converted to Buddhism and spread it around, he put these on huge pillars to mark the places that he had conquered and became part of his Buddhist kingdom. And Ashokan pillars are really important, and there's one at Sarnath in that museum. It's the pride of that museum, and it has 4 lions facing in each direction. And in the past, the wheel on top of the lions is gone, but the lions remain on the top, and that actually became the symbol, the emblem of India. Like on your passport, there's the 4 lions on the cover of the passport. And also there's a Dhammachakra on the Indian flag. So it's a Buddhist symbol on the Indian flag that's become just an Indian symbol. I think I'm going to stop there because we're going to get inundated with children. Thank you very much.